If you're seeing this before May 12th, which means you're seeing it before the full moon in Scorpio, and you have been manifesting and bringing things to life in your life, it's time we have a chat. We have some things to look at that are big term, long term stuff since the South Node was in Scorpio. But first, we need to talk about the relationship between Scorpio and Virgo, which is where the South Node is now. Virgo is the story of Demeter and Persephone, or also maybe Persephone and Hades, which is Pluto, the underworld ruler. All right, Scorpio, thanks for showing up, even in the story of Virgo. Persephone, for those of you who don't know, she gets kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld. While she's there, she has 6 pomegranate seeds, and eating those pomegranate seeds signed her up into a contract where now she can't leave. She's stuck there. But her mom, Demeter, upstairs was like, everything is dying without her here. Hey, Hades, we need her back. So that's where they came up with the deal. Every 6 months, she will transition from either being in the upper world or in the underworld. That's the very short, condensed version of it, all right? So the contracts of Scorpio actually start in the space of Virgo, and then we have the full exchange once we get to Scorpio. Now, for those of you who don't know, again, we're going to talk about the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are always retrograde. They are always moving backwards. So the South Node was just in Scorpio, and it is now in Virgo. Well, there was a time period where it was in Libra. We're going to skip over that for a second, okay? That was from 2023 to 2025. South Node was in Scorpio from 2021 to 2023, and the South Node just moved into Virgo earlier this year in 2025. Part of the South Node being in Virgo is us getting out of some of the contracts that we set up for ourselves back when the South Node was in Scorpio, and we were basically tied to the underworld for a year and a half, 2 years through the eclipse energy. So we're going to have to talk about some dates. If you're interested in understanding the Scorpio relativity, check out your Scorpio placements, check out your 8th house. Anything that was happening with those placements at these times, clock it, because this full moon that's about to come up on May 12th, Pluto is retrograde right here, right now. And it is our first turn of a retrograde with Pluto in Aquarius, where that retrograde is not going to go back into Capricorn. We are getting released. We're getting out of something. We're getting out, we're getting out, we're getting out. Give it up, give it up, give it up. We're done. And at the same time, if you have been weaving webs, if you have been spinning, doing the thing, I don't really know where that was going to go, the spinning and the spunning. Was it fun? I hope so. Anyway, if you've been doing that, expect to have some good stuff come in. Sometimes full moons are about releases, and sometimes, if you've done a lot of work, they're about receiving. And sometimes in that receiving, just like the womb cycle, there is a fertilization that brings in a manifestation, a creation, a beautiful new life for you. So, if any of that sounds relevant, let's talk about the days of Scorpio stuff to pay attention to long term. May 16th of 2022, all right? That was our first lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Later that year, October 25th of 2022, we have our first solar eclipse in Scorpio, so that would have been a new moon. The one that's in May is the full moon. Then skip ahead to May 5th of 2023. That's going to be our, second? Yes, our second eclipse in Scorpio. That's a lunar eclipse, so again, another full moon. That's it for the eclipse dates, but let's look at some other time frames. Give me just a second. I gotta pull them up. Actually, that wasn't meant to be a joke, but it actually will be literally probably a second for you. For me, I'll have to actually be here for just a moment, so I'll see you then. So the South Node entered into Scorpio December 23rd or 22nd, depending on your time zone of 2021. What was happening at the end of 2021 for you? Maybe it wasn't so funny, because I know for me, it was miserable. And simultaneously, there was some pretty good stuff happening. It was like a misery and relief, kind of at the same time. Scorpio is weird. Also, to talk about what happened right before the South Node entered Scorpio, it was about a week before, it was conjunct with Mars and Sagittarius. Some kind of victory with Sagittarius energy, applicable, okay? Applicable right before this happened. So we have this entrance of this new life. There's a new moon a couple of months before the South Node enters Scorpio, a new moon that's in Scorpio. And if you want to look at really indirect energies, you could go back into 2020 and look at what was happening on the new moon in Scorpio that year. You don't necessarily have to. 2020 was just a really big, impactful time, generally speaking. We also, around the end of 2020, were having a Pluto-Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio. So this is kind of something that's been going on for a while. And then the South Node that was in Scorpio amplified it somehow. So back to the dates, okay? December 23rd of 2021 or 22nd, depending on your time zone. That's when the South Node enters Scorpio. And then July 12th of 2023, that's when the South Node exits Scorpio and goes into Libra. So those are going to be some days to look at anything Scorpio related. In your chart, check it out. On a general basis, something that you've willed, your decisions, inheritances through divorce or passings in the family. That's applicable for Scorpio related things as well. Revenge. Okay. Listen, that one's a big, however you relate, if you do. All right, okay. It's a fundamental part of the story of Scorpio, that is. Okay. So will, kind of like the creative energy because of the will. Also, this is going to be something that is probably very, very, very ancestrally related because Pluto, which is one of the rulers of Scorpio, is at the very end of its transit in Capricorn. Both Capricorn and Pluto are ancestral spaces. Capricorn is how the generations transition and shapeshift. Pluto is more about where the ancestors go when they're gone and is just ancestrally related generally. It has to do with our reproductive systems, birth and death, life and living, and no longer giving. Yeah. So any of that, and again, your Scorpio and 8th house placements, something you've been brewing that probably hasn't come to fruition yet. Something you've been manifesting or creating that hasn't shown up. Something that has not come full circle for unknown reasons. Sometimes that's how the contracts within the Virgo space, because again, remember that's where the South Node is right now. Also, Mars, when it exited Scorpio, Mars was in Virgo. And what did Mars do right before it entered into Scorpio? It was conjunct with the South Node. Well, Mars was conjunct with the South Node in Sagittarius right before the South Node entered into Scorpio. Remember the previous date? Okay. Relate as necessary. So this is something of victory, something of strategy, battle, war-oriented stuff. Yeah, okay. This full moon, let's bring it full circle all the way back around, okay? Thank you for your train of thought. I know this video is a lot. The full moon in Scorpio is going to reveal why you've been in this contract and why you have not, like the purpose of you not having received what it is that you're working towards yet within the Scorpio 8th house Pluto, Mars stuff in your chart. While simultaneously, again, sometimes full moons are a time of fertilizing. So there could be a receiving that happens for you about dependent upon, because again, also reproductive systems, fertility, Pluto, Scorpio. Hello. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way, that for some people might have a lot to say, for some it might not. So just relate as necessary. But yeah, there could be some receiving of like, finally you get to leave a contract. Thank you, South Node and Virgo, for releasing us. Simultaneously, the exchange is possible. Finally, it's finally possible. The restrictions and the bindings, because that's Pluto a lot of the times, is binding. So the restrictions and the bindings that had us tied up so that we couldn't reach the goal or receive the thing that we were asking for. If you've done the work, and that's going to be different for every person. Since those previous dates in this video and like what was going on around that time and like what the topic of those spaces were for you. Because again, very personal. Pluto is about secrets for a reason. That's just the truth of it. There's a contract that's being fulfilled this full moon, which is why it's ending. Here's the fulfillment. And also, we're done. You can re-sign if it's possible, if that's something that you want to do. When it comes to binding work, you don't just get out of one binding and go into nothing. That is called death. Even death is a binding. Okay, that's a part of the structure of Pluto. So if you're getting out of one contract with Pluto, some binding tips and tricks, okay? As necessary, apply. All right, bring it back though. The reason you're receiving this thing, whatever it is because the contract is done. You fulfilled whatever the duty or the contract required you to, whether you meant to or not. But make sure you did actually fulfill the requirement. Because if you didn't, Pluto doesn't pay up. Pluto doesn't work like that. So, necessary. Anyways, gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep up the brew. Keep doing what you need to do. Enjoy the full moon. Holy cow. And I'll talk to you soon. This full moon is about to be crazy. I can feel it. I can feel it in the air. I can feel it in my bones. And that's what I have to say about it.